Hey guys, what's going on? So today we are going to talk about win conditions. It's really important to know, just generally in Arena. I feel like it's something that's not covered necessarily, but it's a really easy way to structure and understand Arena better and potentially improve some of your gameplay. So what is a win condition? Obviously it's namesake, but largely it's identifying what the, optimal strategy is, or usually you want the optimal one, to win any certain game. So in a really basic format, if you're playing, Arms Warrior Healer versus Arms Warrior Healer, your win condition is probably going to be CCing the healer with a stun and killing him. Or it's going to be ooming him by doing more damage than the other warrior is, because then you win. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about countering those and how you can essentially extend a game out, how you can deny the enemy's win condition. So we're going to be looking at this AWC game. It's a pretty one-sided one. Like, I think Warrior Mage versus Jungle is pretty obvious, but I think the Jungle does some really good things to stay in the game, which is what we're going to focus on today, because usually, the Jungle would just fall over. So for the jungle, they're trying to deny, any real CC on the healer and on their priest, and to essentially use their cooldowns, rotate their cooldowns around these big windows that the DPS have. So here, as you can see, what just happened there is that as the priest was, he saw the paladin run in from this right-hand side, and he drops a dome straight away on top of his hunter before that thing actually drops down, because he knows that this paladin's pushing this deep. If this paladin's running up here and doesn't stun there, then he's just going to be out of position. That means the priest can probably get a fear. That means that, the hunter can get CC off. It really extends this CC chain. And also, if the paladin stuns and he doesn't drop the dome, these guys are doing so much damage. Blizzo and Mara do so much damage that, to be honest, he's probably going to have to trinket that stun, or the hunter is going to have to trade a turtle. So you can sort of see how quickly things can kind of fall out of control if you don't make these kinds of plays. So this fear comes out here, and Blizzo comes in, and his win condition, right? The WMP's win condition is pretty straightforward. CC the priest and do lots of damage to your kill target. And ideally, you want to CC the kill target at the same time with a stun. So for them, because Mara isn't able to get, another poly or CC here, right? Blizzo comes in with a fear. Cassidy and Facile are pretty good at stopping this poly from coming out. But eventually, you're going to run out of stops. So ideally, they've used pretty much everything here, but they're able to still kind of extend it for a bit longer. The DB is missed. But then he's faking out this def now, trying to get that def. There it is, and there's a full poly. So now the second win condition comes out, which was kind of the same win condition, which is, pretty much keeping this healer locked down, keeping him, out of this game. And these guys, it looks like they're getting smashed right now, but they lose the game if the healer trinkets and they aren't able to sort of get counter pressure, which is why I think this is a really hard matchup. Because essentially the warrior can just run at your hunter the entire time, and the healer can just stand there, kind of in the middle of the map. They can play super aggressive, and the hunter either has to kite, or if he takes the damage and just sits there, they have to kill something really quickly. So they're focusing Blizzo this game. Maybe they think Mara's a bit too hard to kill with the blinks and flashes, but Blizzo's able to pretty much just trade his parry for all of that and the CC on Asgarath. So pretty straightforward trade there. That's one thing that you'll notice good players doing, is that they don't necessarily hesitate to use cooldowns. And we'll look at that one more time, right? So I think it's around here. Maybe it's a bit later. No, it's about now, right? So a lot of the defensive cooldowns on any kit are mitigation. They don't necessarily stop the damage from happening, but they mitigate it. So when this stun comes out on Blizzo, his paladin's sitting the trap at 7.5 seconds. Immediately, as he kind of realizes, okay, we're sitting this, he puts the parry on, right? Realistically, now Cassidy can't really kill him. The hunter really wouldn't be able to kill all of that, and he still has rallying, right? So I think a lot of newer players will press rally and the parry at the same time, but you only have to press one in this situation. What this allows you to do is your 1.5 minute cooldown can be essentially like, instead of having to trinket, which your paladin absolutely would have had to trinket that if he didn't put the parry up, you're essentially able to stick out the game a bit longer, get your ignore pain up, and then once your paladin's out of that, he can get this big holy light. And one thing you'll notice is he doesn't chase the hunter, because if he lined this holy light and it got dispelled by the priest, then they would actually be behind. But then they stabilize out from that go and just hit whoever's closer, right? They don't necessarily have to chase the hunter the whole time, but now that the team's stabilized, they go back onto the hunter. Pretty straightforward stuff. And this dome comes out now. I think probably if you saw, is there a way I can just skip back like 5 seconds? So you can see like Asgraf is like moving across, and it looks like he's going to go and try and get this Hodge. And what happens is he almost like pump fakes it, because he runs up, he stops, right? So Reels is probably like, okay, he's going to stun me like he did last time. So he drops the dome, and then when that dome doesn't actually, when that's like he notices the dome, the pre-dome, he doesn't stun. He holds the stun. Really, really crazy, like small things like that. I think something that just isn't picked up in WoW much. It's the type of play that you might see on League of Legends. It's a lot more obvious when stuff like that happens, but that type of play kind of harder to see. And definitely one reason why I think WoW esports isn't the easiest thing to necessarily commentate or point out. So here it's kind of straightforward in terms of what their next go is. They drop the stun on the on the hunter, and the hunter has to kite again. This Bob comes out to sort of lock down this poly, and you can see how well the jungle is doing to stop Maro from getting a poly. Like, they are shutting this poly down so long. In even just like in games that probably aren't this intense, like on ladder, this poly probably would have been out about 10 seconds ago. You can just get random polys like that. But against really good players, you do actually have to set up the conditions to get that poly, which is why sometimes I think you'll see mages at lower CR develop really bad habits, because they'll just think that they can get a poly out of nothing, and once they go and verse like good people, they'll really be shut down from getting these types of polys for free. So at this point, it feeling pretty dire. The mana game is pretty equal, surprisingly. And the paladin has like no wings. You just use wings there. But it doesn't really seem like there's much happening. And Mara fakes out the death and combusts here. So this is essentially the big win condition for the WMP. The big win condition for the WMP is that they get some form of CC on the healer where there's no trinket. Right? Ideally no trinket, because this is this isn't like, I think there's a big difference. There's circumstances that would imply that you're going to win the game, and then there's the actual point at which you win the game. So when I refer to win condition, it usually means the second one. So in this instance, right, if you think about, okay, how do you actually win this game? How do you close it out? A lot of people have a really hard time closing it out. It's really, really obvious here. The mage polys the priest when the priest has no trinket and uses combustion. He uses strongest offensive cooldown when the priest can't heal, can't put his mitigation on the target, and the hunter has no turtle and no trinket. So he has to sit this entire stun. But, the enemy team knows that. Like, the jungle knows that this is about to happen. And you can even see that with the sort of the positioning here. What Facile is able to do, we'll skip a bit deeper, I think I missed it. I went back a bit too long. What Facile is able to do is reposition himself to be line of this mage, because the mage instantly pops combust. So you'll see here, Facile's moving away this way, right, to the right-hand side. Even though, like, if you're only running off, like, the basic ideas of this game, you would imply you want to be near your healer. But because your healer has no trinket, there's absolutely no reason for you to stand there, because then the mage gets a full combust on you. So he's able to have the presence of mind to move away, and here you can see the mage isn't really connecting during this whole thing. But, the paladin has wings up still. The warrior's hitting him with condemns, and it's kind of like, what else can you really do at that point? They put up a really, really good fight. I think they played really well, the jungle, but there's not much you can do when you're versing WMP as jungle. it is really sort of one-sided, and you can sort of see how Maro, Blizzo, and Asgraf are really constantly pushing their win conditions because they're the advantaged team, right? So they're trying to land CC and just set up and go straight away. Sometimes even when you're the team that should win the matchup, if you're not doing these setups and you're not actually locking things down, you can still have the potential to lose. So for instance, if they're not able to actually force this trinket and these guys are able to just live the entire time and just run around and kite, then sorry, I just dropped something. It's going to destroy your ears, and I apologize in advance, or retrospectively. What's going to happen is that you're probably actually going to be closer in mana than you expect, right? So that's why, like, games where even when you're advantaged to win, you're not necessarily... Like, these guys still have a win condition. If they're versing a worse team than this WMP... maybe even if it's just like a ladder team at like 2.8, 2.9, they can set up because this, like, firstly, they can stop the poly a lot longer. The deaths probably won't be fake, like, so he's able to get on cooldown a lot easier. But also the little plays here, like when Asgraf ran up and like faked out the dome, that's kind of rare to happen. Like, you don't really see that in ladder so much because, it's a tournament game, so it's different. I think it's obviously a very one-sided matchup, and that's kind of why I wanted to go through this one, because it's a good way you can kind of get a view on... Sorry, I keep closing and opening it, but it's a good way you can get a view on what win conditions look like and how to build them. We're going to be talking more and more about that. I think it's something that's really important to know, how you win against every sort of meta comp. And I understand that right now, like, people aren't too interested in the game, but understanding and learning this is a really good way that even if you're not necessarily the most mechanically good player, you're able to still provide a huge amount of value to your team, because you kind of can get an idea of what you should be doing. Like, what is your actual strategy? And that's one thing that you see, I think, a lot at like 2.4, 2.5, where people are either really, really good at the strategy part, like they really hit the right target, they make the right plays, but mechanically fall over, or the opposite, where they're very mechanically gifted, right? They might be doing kicks and faking and playing almost perfectly in that regard, but they're not able to, like, set up, and they're not setting up consistently, and their strategies are very haywire. So getting a mix of both of those is how I think, in my opinion, you push really high rating. And learning about this and understanding it is going to be really useful for, one, it's nice because you can watch these games and understand, hey, cool, that's actually a crazy play when you think about it, but also just to get a better idea of what you should be hitting. And this kind of is info that persists whether it's retail or TBC. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I had to re-record it because the sound quality was awful in the last time. I'm not sure what happened. I'll be trying to work out why that happened. But, let me know what you guys think. Is this kind of content what you're more interested in? And would you like more of the AWC breakdowns like this? All right, guys, take it easy. Bye.